Early bird catches the worm. I've come on a little bit earlier than I probably planned to. Um, and I went and bought some chicken tonight. I thought, well, this is going to be easy. So my local tricycle driver pulled up just around the corner. Wait for me. And he had a passenger already on board. So I sat on the back, and it's very hard to hear when I'm got my earphone in and the motor's going and he's driving along the road. I use him a lot, so I have his phone number in my phone. Um, I believed he was taking, I was partially right, he was taking the person currently, his passenger, into Naguilian, what I believed to be down near the river. Well, I was partially right. In fact, I was very right. But the only problem was, those that know Naguilian, the river travels like a snake right through the city or the town. And I've not actually been on the other side yet until tonight. Um, a bit like when I was a child, we used to talk about the rocky road to Dublin. Well, this was the rocky road through, now I'll try and pronounce it right, uh, Su di Sudi Dan. Sudi Dan. Hang on a minute, I'm going to find out. I'll be right back. Sugi Dan. I use my interpreter to find out exactly where it is. It's on the other side of the river. From those that know Naguilian, you come from the highway. At the moment, they're doing a lot of changes to the town, and the people in power have decided in their wisdom that they don't want tricycles cluttering up the main highway, which I don't really see that they were doing that, but I think the will has come, or the messages have come from afar, and they're just following the orders. So in the process, just a simple trip in from Town into town to the market, you either do a detour and go behind what is the Epic Mall, the new Epic Mall, and you drive along the river bank, which they're actually doing the extension road there. It will become obviously a permanent fixture in going into town. So you wander around areas that I've never been to before. Jane came with me one time and said, "Oh, it reminds me of her childhood going alongside the river." So anyway, tonight, in my effort to get chicken, about 20 minutes later, I actually was able to pick up my chicken from. But in the process, we went to Sudi Dan, which is on the other side of the river. You go down from what would be 7-Eleven on the highway, past the various churches, and you just follow it right down to the river. But when you get down to the bottom, they've decided for some reason to put in a new bit of road all the way down there. I would say somebody probably important lives there, because I can't see why they would need to put a new road there, but they have. Um, yes, I'll address that in a second, David. Hang on. Welcome anyway. Anyway, so we went down there and we get to there and the road is blocked off because they've just poured the concrete in the last few weeks. So you wander round what can only be a little hickledy-pickledy trip under people's verandas and round their stacks of wood and up and around corners, and no road at all. It's just literally going down footpaths. And you finally work your way back around to where you would have been otherwise if you'd gone down the new bit of road. And then you hit what is really, I can only say is, it's a 6 foot wide concrete bridge. And it would go probably 70 or 80 meters across the river. And no lights, nothing. So there's just got the light from the motorbike, which I noticed a lot of these motorbikes at night time, when the motor slows down, the light dims. So it's obviously running off the magneto or the alternator on the motorbike, whichever they have. And you come across the river and then you suddenly hit another section of very nice bit of road. So I would think, using logic, maybe that bridge is going to be made a bit bigger in the near future. And it looks like there may well be some sort of government or local body depot on the other side of the river. So it might be just so that they can take heavy trucks across there, which again gives you another option to be able to cross the river there. So it was an interesting trip, and Jane says hello to everybody. She's busy washing clothes for tomorrow. She's been off since Monday. She had to have I was going to say a smear, a swab for the dreaded lurgy, and came back negative for everybody who'd done the first lot, which is good, and she's back to work again tomorrow. So she'll be pleased not to have to be in my hair all the time. So apart from doing her pottering around the property and her Mayanas, oh, now addressing Dave. It's just last thing, and then anyway we whittled around along the side of the river, and I was saying to the driver, who very good English, and he took us literally down to the riverbank, and there's a whole load of, I'll use the word bucklers, because they're a group of guys that identify with that, and they're having a birthday party tonight alongside the river. There's probably about 30 people there, and we were delivering food there. So anyway, we found our way back. Now, to address what Dave said, I'll just have another look. I interrupted Dave before. Dave Cook said, sadly they announced that foreigners and other Filipinos coming from abroad are not allowed to fly in. Oh. I haven't heard that part. Just said hi. Just heard the Philippines had another spike in coronavirus in Manila, and all flights will stop as of Monday. I think soon anyway. 10,000 new cases, I think. Oh well, that's news to me. I haven't heard that one yet. In fact, I've heard that yes, mass vaccination's on its way. I think they had. Where did I read it? It was in one of the Inquirer, I think it was. I know that one of Jane's relatives, who's a frontliner, has had a jab. So obviously some people are getting them, but I think they've got 1.5 million doses at the moment available, and they're the Chinese version. It's not compulsory here yet, but 1.5 with many hundreds of thousands of people here. Certainly in Manila, there's 20, 30 million people there. So, yes, as I just said, that Jane said her sister just recently had a jab. Now, the Chinese one is being pushed here a little bit, but I think they're really trying to investigate and double check and triple check and quadruple check all the other different varieties of virus. The Anvesta, or what do they call it? That's under a bit of a cloud in Europe, I see. England says it's okay. The rest of Europe seem to think it's causing blood clots and things like that. So we'll wait and see. And I think probably wisely, Philippines is probably saying to itself, well, it's pretty obvious that Manila would have a spike in cases of the flu. I'll call it that because that's what it is. Um, and the more testing you do, of course, the more results you'll get. But there again, there's a lot of things brought in question as to the testing, the accuracy of the testing, and what is the latest thing out of America I see is that they got it wrong again. We should have only been 3 feet away from the other. Um, yes, very funny, Jane. Um, so now the social distancing, they're now saying, in America should only be 1 meter. Hi, Simon, and hello to Dell. Yeah, so all this time we've been kept apart for 2 meters when we only needed 1 meter. We probably didn't need even the lockdowns. Who knows? All we know is that you can get quite sick from it if you're not cared for properly. And when you live in a third world country where the health system it's pretty good, I think it's pretty good. But he's still experiencing the honeymoon. Simon and Della just recently got married and they're now waiting on their 13A visa. Here's crossing our fingers and touching the wood. Everything goes to plan. I've not heard any more about my visa. It's been now 2.5 months. I'm just wondering whether it's by design or whether they've got a different way of dealing with things. The fact that they won't allow people to fly back in suggests that it's a bit pointless making people leave also, because why would you make people leave if you think they're dangerous to come back? So I think that's Philip, if it's really going to happen. Yeah, I think a lot of foreigners would say that their honeymoon starts the day they get to the Philippines and ends when they go away in a box. So, yeah, so who knows? It's we just chug along. I'm in lockdown. I can go and get food. I can go and get banking. I can go and get medication, but I can't roam around as such. I can go for a walk in the morning for exercise. I believe I can also do it in the evening. But it's now been over a year now, so it's become quite entrenched. And the guide, of course, is we tend to look to America as to what's happening in the world. I've been following the Sky News out of the UK. What a mess. Everybody's in a mess. They just don't know. The politicians around the world, and I exclude the ones here. You know why. In England and in America and Europe, I just think they're all caught up with the same dilemma that we all got in the world, and that is that there's obviously powers that be around the world that want to change things. I can't imagine that we really want a Chinese system like the, whatever they call themselves, the CCP. Because how could the whole world become like that, really, realistically? And even under the Roman Empire, it was never like that. There was always rebellion against the Romans, the barbarians, the different groups always fighting the Romans. So there was always somebody doing something against it. And I believe in America there's obviously signs of people have had enough. Certain states have virtually gone back to the way it was before. Hi Slim Jim, how are you? Yep. Australia still no entry, very limited. Exactly. None of us can really just hop on a plane and go anywhere at the moment. It's a bit foolish to do that. If we're to believe everything we hear about the the virus, um, none of us should be travelling. That's what they want. I think that's what they really want. And I say, and I'm excluding the Philippines government because they're just following the World Health Organization, who we know controlled by not, they're not controlled by the Philippine government. Um, they may well be in contact with the government here, but they're certainly not the ones that the government. A Filipino will do what they want to do. Um, Philippines government manages all the things that they've got to do, and it's a lovely place to live. And some of the things we might think are a bit crazy, but they love talking, they love committees, and they love to talk things out. They have lots of talk fests, so not a lot happens overnight. So we're driven by a lot of things that are happening more overseas, and we're just really the Philippines is the Philippines and the people are held hostage to the rest of the world by all the different things that are going on there. It is frustrating. I'm wondering why there's not a massive increase of depression. I understand if, who knows what, but they say there's more suicides in the world. Um, there's all sorts of things going on that are unexplained, like even for myself. Why have I not gone completely mad? I like going out and doing things and roaming about, as Jane always calls it. Just going out, looking, talking, smiling. And I miss that part. I'm limited to the fact that I'm trying to keep as much money together as I can from my pension each month so that I have sufficient to do my plan B if it is possible, with a return here too. But with that in mind, it means that I can't expend any money, major money, on the house. So I occasionally buy a tap. Wow. Or some fittings. Wow. But I decided to buy some more top coat plaster and finish off the upstairs in terms of the finishing coat on the walls. So that will keep me busy for a few months. No, a few weeks anyway. And I'll be up on the scaffold inside the house, which is very stable. Got some boards on top and I just sit on my ass and plaster away. You might have seen me on one of the videos earlier. One of the local guys actually wants to come and he wants to see me how I do it. He obviously wants to learn how he does it. I was explaining to him that you had to put some cement additive, was a good idea because it guarantees that the skim coat will definitely adhere to the wall. There is a certain amount of adhesive in the skim coat anyway, and it's going onto a semi-rough surface initially. But by putting in a little bit of additive in the mix, it doesn't detract from the ability to hold on the wall. If anything, it makes it more sturdy. So I will be doing that over the next few weeks. The last few weeks I've been filling my days up, filling little plastic bags and taking literally hundreds of cuttings of the Mayana plant. And we now, I think, have got something close to 2,000 individual little plants. And Jane's takes quite a few to work every day and sells them, so that's handy for her. And we get quite a few people call around on the weekend that you wouldn't know, but they've heard word of mouth, that's where you can buy them. And we're doing like 3 for 50 pesos each, or 3 for 100. I suggest that as we've got so many, we should maybe do 3 for 90. There's still a reasonable amount of profit in them, and they certainly pay back the initial cost, and you probably make about 85 pesos profit. That's all right. That's about $2 for every three you sell. So that's good value for a propagated plant. So that's been keeping me busy. Um, the mixer is out again on the weekend. Somebody wants to hire it, 500 pesos for the day. Again, all these little things help. They'll buy 2 days worth of food, and it's much help to the budget, and it's fun to get involved with it. The guy who's borrowing it is a former policeman, I think a captain or something in the police force from one of the neighbouring districts, and he's retired and built a what do I call it now? One, two, yeah, it's a three-story house. Now, what was that? Slim Jim says, "Hi John, things are moving slowly here. I'm hoping things might ease in a year. I have to leave April next year. Um, Looking doubtful though. Australia is still no entry, very limited." And Jane says, "Thank you to Simon. We only have the budget for the garden to be finished and the proper landscape. We'll try to finish it soon." Hello, Slim Jim from Jane. Simon says Dell is picking out the ones that she would like to take home, hoping to come up and see us in Easter. That'll be fun. We're lucky now, no more payments for the visa. Yes, that's one good thing. It will be exciting, it will be. Hello, Philippine for us. Well, I know who that is. That's Fred and Marla. Hello, Fred and Marla, how are you? Yeah, so with all the restrictions on elderly, hello Jane, I'm watching on the TV. Oh, I've done that too. Suddenly my face is this big. Not my head, but my face. Hello Fred, hello Marla, how are you? And yes, so back to it, it must be having an effect on people. I mean, here in the Philippines, especially out, I can't talk about anywhere else except here in the provinces of Launion. I haven't been into San Fernando proper recently. I went into, the furthest I've been afield at the moment is Dave Cook. Can I stay 3 months visa if I'm with no visa? Now, Dave, I don't know. That's a question. I assume, Dave, that you have a Filipino wife. If you're married to a Filipino wife, I believe you can enter. But if that's what they say is that nobody allowed to come in from overseas, I don't think anybody, including yourself, will be allowed to come in here. It's what really puzzles me. It really puzzles me about the world. All these different countries, including the Philippines, has certain restrictions on the people who can travel in and out. If you are working for a girlfriend only, I meant later on in the year or so. Now, I think, if I remember rightly, your girlfriend is here in Launion. Isn't that right, Dave? Yes. Now, what I'm saying is that if you work for an NGO, if you work for a missionary, and you also work as a diplomat, you can come and you can go. Now, there must be a lot of diplomats and their hangers-on that come under that umbrella, coming and going all the time, including any politician that's in this country or anyone from a neighbouring country. Now, why are they allowed to travel, but we're not? I can never really get my head around that. Is it that really we have to remember they're privileged? At the moment, no one is allowed to come here. Only overseas workers are allowed in. I have a feeling, Simon, that has just been superseded by Monday's announcement on next Monday, where nobody's allowed in or out. So um, I would imagine that will affect overseas foreign workers as well. Um, Dreadful for them because they're either their um, contract is finished or they're on a home leave, coming back for a period of time, and then they can go back. But when they come back here, of course, they're under a quarantine. So depending on how long they've got to come here, they may well spend a lot of their time here in quarantine. So not a good thing. So the whole situation, we've now reached the 1 year. We're now into our second year. You have to ask yourself, the President of the Philippines has just recently announced that he wants to see the economy back into starts today until April 15th. Right, but Duterte, our president here in the Philippines, has only just recently announced on a live announcement a few days ago, this week, that he wants to see the economy opened up because there's too many people starving, not able to make a living, and he wants to see things get back to normal again, which I suppose is a positive move. Not all politicians around the world are closed minds, and I think the president here has seen wisely that you can't just shut the economy down. We're a very fragile economy here in the Philippines, and we rely heavily on tourism and a lot of travellers in and out, and obviously a lot of retirees come here and invest a lot of money. There's something that when they do bring back the retirement visas and that type of thing, I'm going to explore the idea, possibly through the help of a lawyer or a visa, not a visa, what they call, yeah, I suppose a visa agent. And that is that I've actually invested over $100,000 here in the Philippines by building a home for which I'm not entitled to own. So therefore it's an investment for a Filipino, it's not for me. And I would think that they're starting a lockdown again in Manila. Maybe that's why Lazada said that we might be a bit delayed on getting some of the stuff that was being sent recently. So we'll wait and see. I know when they had a lockdown before in Manila, they found ways around it for food deliveries, courier businesses, that type of thing. They became essential services. So therefore, people in courier business, as a courier, have got themselves a pretty reliable income. But we don't know. I'll have to watch the news more often. I'm trying not to, because I think we're just getting bogged down in American politics, English disgruntledness with the current Prime Minister and his mob, the kerfuffle about Prince Harry and his American girlfriend, wife, and her tell-all with Oprah Winfrey. I mean, I believe they wanted a quiet life, to be just a public member. It's funny how when you want a quiet life, you go on Oprah and you start rubbishing your family. Not quite how you want a quiet life and I mean, let's face it, Prince Harry only has to open his mouth and say something, and the media will be saying, yes, come and talk here. We'll pay you $100,000 for 5 minutes talking. And they just do the circuit like all of the has-been politicians in America, making money doing town hall meetings and people paying money to see them. This is how politics works. And really, Prince Harry is just another politician under the emblem of the royal family. what do they call him, sixth in line to the throne. And unless there was a major catastrophe in the royal family in the UK and five sets of people died, he has no chance of ever becoming up the top as the next in line. So his older brother, Prince William, is the next in line after his father, Prince Charles. So I myself, he made the decision to leave, and I think probably driven a little bit by that of his wife. I can't imagine an American actress really thinking that she was just going to marry a member of the British royal family and just quietly slip away and just become Mrs. Harry Windsor. I really don't think so. She knew, like anybody would know, it's a career move. Even if they break up from now on, can you imagine? Like the American public would always want to talk to her. Oh, the former Duchess of Sussex, or whatever she is, Cambridge. Um, so it's naivety to believe that none of all that is not just driven for more appropriate centre stage carry on. I mean, I'm astounded that Prince Philip is 98 or something like that, maybe 99 years old. He's had some problems with his heart. At 99, I think he had problems with quite a few things. So one wishes him the best for the sake of the Queen, that he gets through it okay and he's able to recoup in one of his palaces somewhere and have a safe entry into his 100th year. I mean, just imagine the Queen will be sending her husband a letter wishing him a happy 100th birthday. But I didn't realise the Queen is pretty well close to that herself. So who sends the Queen a happy? Does the Queen send herself a letter? I don't know. Yes, he'll be 100 in June. Thank you, Simon. That's my spell check. And that's a pretty long life. I mean, we all like to think that we can get a good long life. I often wondered when I was younger, what's it going to be like when you're 60, 70? Oops, I'm already 70. Now I know what it's like. But I never thought that I would be as active in mind, inactive in body to a degree, driven by desire and oh no, I meant desire to do a job, commitment to a job, and it's a really satisfying thing building your own home. Literally, I look back 3 years ago when we first started building the home. 3 years ago, it doesn't seem that long ago, but it is 3 years now. And why isn't it finished? Well, we ran out of money. It wasn't going to be like that. My trip to New Zealand was going to resolve that problem. And we're getting there slowly but surely. We've almost completed the downstairs, and we've done that through this pandemic, really. A lot of the work has been done whilst we've been restricted here. So, bit by bit by bit, I'm a bit like an overseas foreign worker. As the money comes in, I earmark a certain amount, and then I hit the road running. And I have to do a little bit more electrical upstairs. Power is already up there, but I have to then connect the individual rooms, which they at the moment they are connected to individual rooms, but not to the lighting circuit. I've created temporary. Well, I've got individual circuit breakers, and I've wired to that extension cords so that it operates a bit like turning the light on, but it will be properly wired up, double checked by my trusty electrician next door, And once that's done, I'll be able to do the ceiling frames upstairs like downstairs. Again, once that's done, it only really leaves tiling of the floors, um, a few door frames. Well, that's handy. Yeah, actually, Dave, I've found a very good neighbour, Raoul, a really nice guy. His wife does the run around the area with manicuring and massaging. Hello. Now I just missed your name then. Just have a look. Harakat Vlogs. Hello, welcome. How am I doing? We're doing okay. And yes, so he oversized. I mean, I've got a basic knowledge of electricity. As long as you follow certain rules, is pretty straightforward. Certainly, running cables through is easy enough. You can get a bit baffled by some of the circuitry. They don't have over here. It's not common to have three cables. You know, they don't have earth positive and negative. They don't have green, blue, and red. They just seem to. It's funny. Some of them just have two black cables, and it's only when it gets to the circuit breaker that they put a colour on the coding on the last section of wire. Hello, how are you? Yes, so earth linkages really rely upon an earth wire here being the, how would you put it? It's a two-way system. You have a earth which travels right around the whole neighbourhood, and they they have a black wire. We'll call it a black wire because it's a negative wire. And then theoretically they're supposed to have a red wire. Sometimes it's a green, a blue, or again a red tape around one of the black cables. It comes to the property in an 8mm cable, and then it goes through a circuit breaker. In our case, it goes through a circuit breaker from just below the meter, so that we have what we would call in Australia a builder's pole. On average, my power bill, which I run a light every day outside, 3 light bulbs, which are 5 watts each. They're LED light bulbs. So I've just increased them to 6.5 because they're a little bit brighter. And I run them every night just to keep making it just a little bit uneasy for somebody to come in and rifle through the plants out the front or do anything like that. Even though I've never had anything stolen, having said that. But it gives the neighbourhood people a chance to see if there's somebody in there, because I know that if somebody was in there who shouldn't have been in there, we would hear about it from the neighbours. We have a very good neighbourhood watch here in our barangay. And like in Australia, we used to have signs everywhere, neighbourhood watch area. You don't really need to worry about here. Everybody knows everybody. I mean, Jane was brought up and lived here all her life. So for her to, she knows them by name or by face because they're relatives of relatives of relatives. So it's very hard. But you do know the new ones because they stick out like a sore thumb, like me. And the other day when we went for Jera's birthday celebration up at the, now you can check this out, I know they have a Facebook thing. It's called the Bella Vista Resort. It's literally probably 100 meters away from where we are. It consists of a number of rooms that they can rent out, and they provide a swimming pool. I think it's 2 pools and a paddling pool, kiddies pool, and water slides. And they have these little huts that you can rent out. The one that we rented out was 900 pesos for the day, and you pay 60 pesos per head to come in. So you can go in there and swim anytime you want all day for a little over $1. So in Australia, about $1.50 a head, which the kids enjoy. There's lots and lots of kids. It's generally mainly kids, not so much teenagers. Oh, maybe they are teenagers, but they're mainly kids, under teens, and they're having a lovely time. Not what you call social distancing, but they do their best. You write down your name and you wear a mask and all that type of thing. They've got a little bar in there, and it's run by a Filipino lady and an American husband. American husband, John. Recently, he travelled up to San Juan and he met with Brian from Philly in the Philippines. So it was interesting. But he was telling me how somebody stayed overnight in return for doing a blog on his Bella Vista, and he asked me if I'd be interested in. Well, actually, I asked him if I could take one later on in the week when it wasn't so busy, which he agreed was fine. And it won't go on like the other guy's one did. It'll be a short one, and hopefully it'll be edited a little bit better. I'll get Jane to edit it because she's good at that, or Jera. So Jera had her 19th birthday with some of her school colleagues and her college friends. I think she had a lovely time. It was a good spread of food, and we did a video on it. So if you want to catch up on that, it's on our latest set of videos that we did. And back to what David said. Yeah, it comes down to a circuit breaker. I've got a 40 amp circuit breaker, and I've attached to that a a double set of 3-pin plugs. So I run the house literally on an extension cord from that, which is probably not the safest way of doing it, but it does provide it, given that we only have lights on at night. There's one light left inside, which has got two 2-watt lights in a recess, which gives the impression somebody's inside. And during the day I run a fan, and our total power bill this month, and most months, is between $130 and $160 a month. So at least it provides us, if I need a power tool or additional lights to see something, I can do it. So I had to wire up the 3.5 amp cable for the final stage to connect to the downstairs circuit breakers for the power outlets. Once I've done that, I've got to buy 2 sets of cable, 150 in a box, 150 meters in a box. That's going to cost me about 5,000 pesos, which I will be buying next month. So once I've done that, that will have completed all downstairs. The only thing I have to then do before I can cover in effectively the ceilings downstairs is I have to run the soil pipes through the ceiling and out of the building to connect up to the septic tank, which I will be also doing hopefully next month. Both these things are fairly cheap to organise, and given that I'm doing most of the work, the costs are very low, and it will get the house to the point where it really just needs tiles in the comfort room on the wall so we can use the comfort room properly. Connect up a toilet. Given that the toilet upstairs won't be connected to the same soil pipes, we won't have a problem with odour upstairs because we won't be putting any toilets there until we're ready. The pipe work will be in, but not connected to the septic, so there won't be any odour coming back up. The same with the hand basins and the drain. The drains for the upstairs will be connected, but they'll also be vented up onto the roof. So the process is that, like I say before, is that a lot of these things, the material cost is very low. The labour boosts me, and with the help of maybe 1 or 2 others on occasional days, it shouldn't be too hard to achieve it. That's right, Jane. He has a, if I'm correct, a 21-year-old girlfriend in San Fernando, was it? I think so. San Fernando, or maybe further up north. But no doubt she's hanging out to meet. They've never actually met in person, so the excitement, the anticipation is killing you both. So, but when it happens, I'm sure, I hope it works out for you. And the one thing that I have noticed so many times on vlogs and listening to various different people's comments on Facebook, Americans have often are the most um, insistent of this. If they take their wives back to America and they become Americanized, they've found that that's not, in time, it's not the best thing. And I tend to believe that that's probably a good idea, because it's a bit like if I was brought up in the Philippines and I went to, wow, the big wide west, doesn't matter what we think, um, it will be a big shock. I mean, I've been watching a couple of videos. There's a guy who sadly passed away, he's an American guy, and he did a few videos of him having to do the visa run. And he went off to Hong Kong, and you follow him. It's quite long videos, but it starts where he lives, I think in Cebu or maybe Dumaguete. And anyway, he finds his way to Hong Kong. He's on his own, and he's arriving at the time where there's all this COVID had just started, and the place is empty. Literally, getting on the plane, showing you on the plane, going to Singapore. No, not Singapore. It was to Hong Kong, and experiencing. He had to spend, I believe, 3 days in total in the airport. He was a bit reluctant to travelling outside of the airport, maybe because of finances or whatever, but it pointed out the emotions that I felt watching the video was the same feelings that I felt when I went back to New Zealand through Australia. And then you hit the West. The biggest shock is that, you know, you've been so used to spending pesos. Even when you get your salary, your pension, it disappears from American dollars, Australian dollars, English pounds, whatever it is, and it becomes pesos. And a certain amount of your pesos, or your pounds, or your English, your Australian money, becomes pesos. So you think pesos. Now, when you go back to Hong Kong, you suddenly realize that the Hong Kong dollar is a little bit close to the Australian dollar. People over there get paid by the hour. They work a 40-hour week on average, and then they get paid overtime. So the reflection in the cost of things over there, you know, Jane, when she went to Singapore, she was always, before she bought something, she was converting it back into pesos and saying, that's expensive, or no, that sounds okay. And that was the driving force. But the reality is that the minute you go back and you live in the West from where you've been used to, I mean, I've lived in England, I've lived in Australia, and I've lived in New Zealand. So those three currencies are quite familiar to me. When I got back to New Zealand, it was a shock to go down to the local Chinese takeaway. I say Chinese because it was a Chinese food takeaway. I believe they were actually Vietnamese running it. But it was a Chinese takeaway shop. That was what it was called. And I got a chop suey or something like that, or a chow mein. And the meal cost me, I think, just about $18 New Zealand. Now, $18 New Zealand is about $15, $16 Australian. So I'm thinking if I was earning Australian, again, thinking if I was earning that amount of money per month that I was earning before when I was working, I would have said, oh, that's okay, under $20, that's a pretty good meal. But then you convert it into pesos and you think, whoa, that's quite a lot of money. What's that? Seven, what help me here? I'm just trying to think. If I go back to Aussie dollars, if I say $20, $20 Australian is about $8. No, eight. It's 800 pesos. 800 pesos for a $20 meal. So I think I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, it does seem a lot of money, and that is the biggest shock you get going back to the West, readjusting to the value of your money. So therefore, if you're on a pension and you go back for a month or so, if you're not working or you're just relying literally on the pension, your pension will be just gobbled up. And the only way you can save money is if you're staying with relatives, because if you're not paying for the hotel room, so to speak, you can just survive on a pension over there. In Australia, of course, it rises. For some unknown reason, the powers that be in Australia have decided that if you live overseas and you're on a pension, they have decided that they think in their wiseness that you shouldn't really have a full pension. So they take 25% of your money away from you when you leave Australia after 6 weeks. So, bit of a shock. And of course, I used to get part of my pension from New Zealand, but because I've been out of the country for more than 6 months in New Zealand, that disappears. And you can't reapply for it unless you're either living in Australia or back in New Zealand. So I miss out on about another $300 Australian every month, which is quite a lot of money when you look at it. I mean, a married couple, for instance, in Australia on a pension, on a state pension, living in Australia are on just around $3,200 per month. Now I say that's quite a good amount of money. What's that? 3 12 are 36. That's nearly $40,000 a year. That's a very high pension. Here, a single person like myself is only entitled to around about 18,000 for a year, maybe close to 19. Hello, Graham. How are you? Long time no see. I hope Bawong is, well, I know Bawong's okay. Lots of things happening in and around Bawong. So, yeah, so it is a big shock when you go back. If you do, when we finally are able to do a visa run or go back and spend a period of time overseas without difficulty coming back in, it will be an eye-opener. First of all, the eye-opener is when you travel. Most of us will only have the airfare, we'll have a little bit of money in hand for emergencies, but that emergencies will not provide you with much when you're over there. Say hello to Launion, Simon. They're in, no, not Simon, it's Dave. She's in Launion. Yes, so it is a big shock. So Launion, yes, it's in San Fernando, if I remember rightly. So she's breathing the same air as we are. She's over there, talking to you on Skype. Why isn't she talking to you on... Oh no, Skype is free. That's right, Skype is free. And if I remember, you're in England. Dave, if I'm right. Am I right? Are you in England? Aren't you in Coventry or somewhere like that in the Midlands? Yeah, so that is the biggest eye opener. He's getting over the cake that we gave him. Well, Dave, I hope it all works out for you, Simon says. When you get here, I think this is a wonderful place to live. It is. It is a wonderful place to live. It's funny, last night we had a rainstorm here. I call it a rainstorm because we haven't had much rain in the last few megalobs. Jane Pink. And we had a rainstorm, but of course the sunset was going down, so there's this beautiful orangey, rosé sheen to the evening last night. It was pouring with rain, which meant we didn't have to water all the plants. They were nature watered them, and it was the best kind of watering you get because it's full of all the bugs and things that come out of the rain that the plants just love. So yeah, so life is just like any life. It's pretty laid back here. Uh, what's tomorrow? Another day. What are we doing tomorrow? Standing outside the gate at 7:15, watching Jane waiting for her service, going off to work, feeding the dog and the cats, meow, as they scramble for food, going round to the house, opening up, turning the lights off, starting my day off with a wander around just to check everything's there and deciding what we're going to do for the next day. I haven't been able to get out, Simon, about my seniors card yet. I will do that, but you still have to make an appointment with the municipality to actually organise that. But that's one of those things I will do. My next thing on my important list too is to renew my Australian driver's licence so that when I am able to, I will be able to get my Filipino one. I still think I should be entitled to get one now. I've been here 6 years. And I can show them 6 years worth of visas, one after another. What's the difference between that and the 12-monthly one? I don't know, but maybe there's a reason still. I think the reason was that they don't issue driver's licenses or swap them over, given if you're only here temporarily. Well, I've not been here temporarily. I've been here temporarily 6 years. I've had a little bit of a holiday overseas with Jane and the girls, and Jane went over to Singapore and I went over to New Zealand once via Australia. So I think I should be able to get one. I just think that maybe at the time I last applied, the law had just changed and maybe it's just adapted a little bit more. So one day I should go and get myself a permit and go in and find out myself firsthand what the problem or what the hurdles are to get my driver's license changed to a Filipino one, because it would be quite handy. I'd be able to legally drive on the road without having to risk being told off for being over 3 months since I arrived. And that's an expensive way of maintaining a license, to go out every 3 months, unless you have a genuine purpose to do that. So you have to take a driving test. Oh, Simon said you have to take a driving test. Is that because you don't have a license, or is it? I mean, the one that I was trying to do is a current driver's license, and you have to transfer it into becoming a Filipino. Hello, Kevin. Hello, Gemma. G'day, mate. How you going? How was Australia? Don't know how lucky you are, mate. How's it go? What was that one that that controversial girl did about Australia? Um, oh, Laura Bingles, was it? Or somebody like that. She did a controversial bikini-clad promotion of Australia and had a jingle attached to it, which I rather like. Going well here, all good. As life is, I was talking to a friend in Ballarat the other day, and I was asking him simple. I know it seems silly questions, but um, I was asking how life was for him. He's retired too. He's 74, and he lives in Ballarat. And I said to him, if you wanted to get in a car and travel, say, to Bendigo or Castlemaine or up to Border Town, can you do that? And he said, yeah. And he said, but you are cautious of the fact that Führer Andrews, the Governor Andrews, um, might suddenly announce there's another lockdown, and you'd have to skittle back home. But otherwise, he says, apart from wearing a mask, there's no limit on how many people go into Woolies or Coles or rock up to McDonald's. So life in turn has gone back to normal. I didn't actually ask him what it's like if he went to the swimming pool complex in Wendouree. But I would imagine that Lake Wendouree, they still wander around or do their walkathons around the whole lake every day for exercise. So it's nice to hear that life is to a degree gone back to normal. He said takeaways are open, restaurants are open there, so that's good. So, but then of course he lives in what we would call in the country, in the provinces outside of Melbourne proper. But I do believe that things have eased a little bit more in Melbourne, even though they've got this 2 metre rule or things like that still applying. So who knows when it will come back to normal. You know, we might be here 3 years from now and we're still having to go through it all. So it's a strange world we live in. At the end of the tunnel, when the world returns back to normal, that's good to hear, Kevin. It sounds like Wayne was saying in Ballarat, back to normal. And that's the other thing I asked him, because his daughter actually works, his son-in-law is a police officer, inspector, down in Geelong. He travels every day. And his daughter works for a building company. And but she said that they're so flat-tack with contractors coming in from Melbourne to build up the number of forces here in Ballarat. They're just flat-tack building houses. Ballarat is just expanding with new estates everywhere. So if you're a contractor in Australia, I think make hay while the sun shines. So for all intents and purposes, life is returning to normal in many areas. Normal seems to be a concept here. Hello, Celine Dragon TV. Hello. MLSO. MLSO. Is that short for something? My love so original. I don't know. Maybe that's a Filipino word. Yes, it's nice to see that some parts of the world are returning to what is a little bit more like normal. I think when the craziness subsides and the analytic minds of the world will start analysing what's been going on this last 12 months and what's been going on since and to the end of all of this, to a conclusion when it calms itself down. I think we're going to realise how we've been suckered in by this whole concept. It's dreadful the number of people that have died. But nobody else has died, it seems, from anything else but COVID. Um, it's been stated in the media that it's, it's not that busy as an undertaker. It's pretty well normal. You don't see queues at the cemetery. You don't see queues outside hospitals. You see in Ballarat, for instance, the hospitals are, all the intensive care parts of the hospital are full. But all the other wards are just shut down. Nobody's there. The nurses aren't working. So where's the panic? If you take over Australia as an example, I haven't looked at the latest numbers, but I don't think it's in the hundreds even, people who are in hospital. I think it's in the half hundreds maybe. Majority of people have recovered. There have been reports that some people have got ongoing problems as a result of the illness that they suffered. But when you have right, that's right. I think, well, they've always been talking about who's saying that? Yes, Graham, I agree with you. We have blindly accepted it because we forget very, very quickly, we forget that politicians are voted in every 4 or 5 years, whatever, wherever we live. We vote different members of parliament in this country, senators and congressmen, but let's keep away from the Philippines particularly. It's not our place to comment on that. But overseas in Australia or England, we have members of parliament. I'm just trying to think, do we have senators? I think we do have senators. Oh, so long since I've been in Australia. We don't have congressmen. I think we do have senators. But we have local MPs. We vote these local MPs into power because we either support the Liberal Party or the National Party. I'm talking about Australia, which is the Liberal National Coalition, or the other side of the coin, which is the Labour Party. And the politics of Australia is either National Liberal or the Labour Party. There's a spattering of independents as well. But they do deals. When they finally have an election, a couple of hours afterwards, you find for a few days later, there's a tussle between a number of independents who, if they join the side of the one that wanted to be in power and doesn't quite have the majority, when they're able to, they create a coalition, and they then go to the Governor General of Australia, who is the representative of the Queen in Australia, and they say, yes, we're able to form a government, in a minority government, but we're able to do it with a few other independents who've pledged their support. So off they go and obviously have a manifesto, as they call it. So they run their elections on those manifestos. But like the trouble with a manifesto is that it's a pamphlet that's distributed to the wider public, and those that are really, really interested, they read it from page 1 to page whatever, to the end. And anybody doing that, anybody who lives in Victoria needs to be certified. I think Anybody that lives in a lot of places need to be certified. So at the end of the day, they come back in and they get sworn in by the Governor General, and life carries on. They have a bit of a moan, the losing party, and then they have a soul-searching time where they have little gatherings and they say, well, we should have done this, and next time we'll spend more time doing this, that, and the other. But it seems more democratic in Australia. It seems more democratic in the sense of democratic understanding, more fair in Australia and in New Zealand. There doesn't seem to be a situation where a lobbyist is able to wield so much power like in America. I'm sure there are people who donate large sums of money to different political parties in Australia and New Zealand, and they get the ear of the Prime Minister or the future Prime Minister. And if there's a common belief that that would be good politically and for the country, that politician would probably go along with it. But I would think they would distance themselves in their efforts to be transparent, that they're not actually puppets for these big business lobbyists in Australia or New Zealand. The same applies in England, I would think, too. It's a little hard to... you can't comment on the eastern side of the world. The Asian community politics is it's a different ball game altogether. It's not, it doesn't even pay to go there because it's not what I would call in the same mould as that of Australia, New Zealand, England. America is again a different mould than that of those three countries I mentioned. Europe, I don't know enough about the politics of Europe. I'm sure there's a little bit of corruption in the eastern side of Europe that is commonly known. I don't think they pay for votes like they do in some countries in Asia. You often wonder where the money comes from for them to do that. But nevertheless, there's not... It is a shock in the West if you live in England, Australia or New Zealand. And I'm talking about those three countries generally. It's a shock to realise that we've given, by electing these people into power in their different parties, we've given them also at a time where they themselves are duty bound by all these little treaties that they do, again I say, outside of the manifesto. These are what politicians do. They have a manifesto for us, the people. And it's quite straightforward. You know, we, the sheep, yeah, I'll vote Labour or I'll vote National or Liberal Party. Usually you vote for the leader and that's the one that you concentrate your mind on. You like him, so therefore his representative in your electorate is the one you vote for. But the thing is that it's these little deals that politicians always do. They sign up treaties with different organisations around the world. World Health Organization, Amnesty International, Red Cross, you name it, they do it. And there's all these, in a way, lobbyist groups that they, and I say secretly, they bury this information in little things that we just generally wouldn't see. Then we rely upon our press to dig and discover what they've done. And if need be, to raise the issue about what they believe on our behalf, the general public, that that is in our interest, or maybe it isn't in our interest. When trade deals are agreed to, it's the press that should be the ones that are scrutinising it. They're the ones that can ask the question. If we rocked up to a press conference, they wouldn't even answer our question. They know, these politicians, they know Jim, Ray, Sally, Ruth. They're in the audience. They know them. They probably have barbecues together. They know these people. They know that if they speak to Ruth, she's going to be softy, gently, gently. If they talk to Bruce, he's going to be a bit brutal. He's going to ask tricky questions. Right. Well, we'll have to be careful. I won't look towards him. Hopefully he won't ask me a question, or I'll pick somebody else. Have you noticed how they say yes? Yes. Yes. They're probably saying, he's the one I want to answer the question. He's the one I trust. I don't want to answer him, so I'll ignore him. And that's how politicians survive. But you need a strong press. It's all, yes, it is all hand in hand corruption. And these politicians are supposed to be looking out for us. Instead, they're wielding so much power. They've politicized, they've created bullets, in effect. They've created ammunition in COVID-19. They've used the situation to distract us from what really should be happening. They should be saying, my God, our kids have not been to school for a year. How can you send kids, in Australia, kids who are, I'll say, unfortunate, because in a way they are unfortunate. They're brought up on cattle stations, thousands of kilometres away from the city, and they rely upon bush telegraph. They rely upon internet connection. They rely upon telephones, Skype kind of thing, radio connections. That's how they get their education, up to a certain point, because they're hundreds of miles away from a local school, so they do correspondence school. And what the world has been asking, has been doing, is they've created an education system that is correspondence education. And we all know that correspondence education is not the same as an in-class tutor standing in front of a class telling them to be quiet, sit down, behave yourself, calm down, now listen to what I'm doing. Please do that again. Do this. Hand-on-hand education. Giving them time, the kids, the students, time to go and relax, have something to eat, have a bit of their time with their friends, wait for the bell to ring and go back to class. Kids need that. They need it in terms of, that's their development as human beings, as young people, learning to communicate with each other. The Philippines, especially here, and I say that because I've been here for 6 years, is so reliant upon a phone, just like I'm talking to you on a phone. I'm using that because it's a camera. I don't have enough money to buy all the fancy stuff, but the camera does a good job. And as a result of that, children, kids, and I put Jane's children, Jera goes and sits there religiously every day, or almost every day, in front of a laptop, and she has a telephone going at the same time. And she does classes. There's a series of pictures of people down the bottom, and whatever I would say it's a bit like, that's your classroom blackboard. And the tutor is talking to them. Now, I don't know whether there's one tutor for each class, therefore all the teachers are in employment, but instead of being in the college, they're now doing it there. Do they do it from home, Or are they relying on going into college and using the system that's operating from there? I don't know. But that never replaces, like, to see Jam Jam, on Saturday with her friends, her school friends, laughing, giggling, smiling, sticking her tongue out, making faces at her friends. That's a delight. To see a young person being able to be young, stupid, carefree, with other kids of her own age, her friends, dear friends who she's known for most of her lifetime, certainly education-wise. Great to see they're still friends. They're all rocking up. Big girls, skinny boys, big boys, all mixture of people. Just like it was for us when we went to school. Nothing replaces the schoolyard. And to, there must be ways. I mean, I saw a video the other day. No, I saw it today. A band, a school band. And these kids were in bubbles. Literally a bubble. They zipped themselves up in a little tent where you could see them. They'd obviously been made for the event. And they're playing musical instruments. They take their mask off and they play the instrument. Come on! It's crazy. For a start off, they say that the flu, the virus, the flu, whatever we want to call it, the illness that is spreading around and going around the world slowly but surely, is not affecting children as much as they thought. Therefore, it's affecting older people because we suffer from a lot more complaints as we're getting older. We're not as strong as we used to be. Our immune system isn't as strong. There are people who are middle-aged. There are younger people, young 30, 40-year-olds that are getting sick, but they're also recovering because their immune system maybe is down a little bit. Maybe they're on the old grog too much. Maybe they smoke too much. If you smoke a lot, that means your lungs are under pressure every day. So if you have a virus that's going around that is attracted to your lungs, bronchial area, how crazy it is to smoke. How crazy is it if you've got liver problems to be drinking? As much as we might all like a cold beer now and again, or a bourbon and coke, if you're inclined, I didn't mind a bourbon and coke occasionally. I don't have it that often now. I get too tipsy. But there are people still that I see smoking every day here. And they cough a lot. There's TB everywhere. It's free to be what's the word? Treated here, which is wonderful. So there's no excuse. You can rock up to a hospital and get a TB test for free in the local hospital. The drugs are distributed free. So they do their bit. And so you just have to wonder, why are we so like sheep? Why are we allowing, when you think about the years and years and years, the old, and this is going back way back, the old Dixon of Dock Green. Those are, English would know what I'm talking about. It's an old TV series where there was a PC Dixon. He was a sort of, your local Bobby, your local policeman. Around the world, police have always had a problem with the way, that's right, it does take a long time to get over. And TB does take a while. But it can be cured, fortunately, but it does leave lasting damage to your lungs. And there's been a lot of effort put into trying to build up trust in the police. Trust and, like, who do you call when, not Ghostbusters, but who do you call when you're in trouble? The police. And you hope that the police will treat you respectfully and that you will be able to get help from them. And 8 drugs a day, yes. I know somebody also did a series of that. Unfortunately, they were okay at the end of it, but to actually have it, it is a dreadful disease. But back to what I'm saying is that the world has tried very hard to get the police to get on side with the police and not see them as police dictators and stormtroopers. And I just imagine what Australia's damage has done to the police force now, within the images of the public, where they've been restricted and dictated to in some ways heavy-handedly to enforce the rules of politicians. Um, yes, Simon Dave said it took nearly 2 years to recover from it, and he picked it up in Thailand. So it's definitely rampant. It hasn't been annihilated in most of these eastern countries. It's remained because it's a very not everybody can be treated for it. I'm not. There used to be in England TB was rife, and I think you got inoculated against it, like polio. So I don't know what will happen when we do come out. That's right. It would be. Now that's interesting. Not in, well, it is interesting, Dave, because I've had lung X-rays when I was in Australia, and they noticed I had what do they call it? What was that about? Graham, off topic. I found a baker that makes real bread in San Fernando. Danny's Bakery. There's a shout out for Danny's Bakery. They're on the main highway, and they make real bread after 10:30 every morning, and they're often empty by midday. Well, we'll have to try that. I think I might have actually seen that. I'll give that a try. Off track. Yes, so yes, I had on my lungs. I had some marks, but apparently when I was young, I may well have suffered from scarring on my lungs too. And when they've done it, they've noted it, but then they said that when they examined it, they're old scars. They weren't new ones. So maybe it's something I probably should have done here now anyway, because there are people around the area that have had TB, and who knows? You don't. It's better to know that you maybe contracted it before it becomes worse. So there's a young guy that coughing very badly, and he's been coughing blood now. To me, that represents possibly TB. He's very poor, but I don't know why he hasn't gone to the hospital. Maybe the family that's looking after him feel that they're a bit scared to take him there. It might cost them money, but maybe I'll have a word to see what happens. Just a quiet word, just to find out. Because he's just wandering around. Now, if you are a carrier of TB, my understanding is that you shouldn't be out there mixing in the community until you've been done the course of treatment, so that you're no longer able to infect others. But got a dreadful cough. He wears a mask, but he's out there working. So, if he has got it, who is he cross-infecting? So, yes, back to the old thing, and this is we are being led for the last year, and I'm hoping that we're not going to go for another year of being led. I think that the world is starting to wake up. There's certainly, I watched, the only one I tend to watch is Next Edition, I think they call it. News Edition, Next Edition. Fox News. Because you're not getting, it doesn't appear to be too slanted. They're still asking questions, the horrible questions that the Democrats don't want to answer. But the reality is that uh, America's in a mess, and it wasn't before. I don't believe America was in a mess. I think it was on the right road to becoming more greater than it has always been. I think that Trump actually meant his best to get it back on its feet and bring it back to America first, instead of what has been touted as America last. Now, I don't understand why a political party sees it necessary to completely undo everything that's been done by the previous lot. Why would you stop building a wall that you've got the funds there to do? Why would you then send psychological messages that encourage people just to storm the Bastille, to come to America, to send kids without parents? Why? Why would you? How is that helping? I mean, yes, it may be 20 million people in 4 years, maybe. I don't think it'll be that many, but who knows? Will they all vote for Democrats next time round? Will it make it that much harder? I don't know. I just, I can't see, just not even America, I can't see how any country, you imagine the Philippines. How can the Philippines just suddenly open its doors and say, come on, we'll let 5, 6 million people come here and live here? They're not stupid. They wouldn't do that. Would you do that in Australia? No. Would you do it in New Zealand? No. Would you do it in England? Well, they're stupid. They've been doing it for years. They've had an open door policy. It might not be written in paperwork, but there's so many ways around the system over there. It's just a system chaotic. They have the Commonwealth, and they've given people from Commonwealth countries almost like a God-given right to come and live in England. Oh, I have a sick mother, and I think, can I bring her over as well? Well, as long as you can prove that she's sick enough to come here, yes, we can do it. Can I emigrate there myself? Well, as long as you don't have a sickness, you can emigrate. But you have to learn how to speak English, and you have to know who is the best cricket player and what happens on Tuesday, and stupid things like that. And you can become a resident in England. And if you've got enough money, you can do it. If you're a European, I think it's going to be a little bit harder for them just to come over. But I think if you come from countries that you would otherwise suggest, if you name them, I would be racist. But as the world is made up of all races, I can't see how you can be racist. I mean, I'm an Australian, but I came from England. Does that make me a racist? I don't think so. I think the word racist has been taken over by politics. It's a word now to shut people up. If you didn't like somebody who came from England, were you being racist? They used to call me a pommy bastard. So what? That's what they want. What's a pommy? Prisoner of Mother England. That was what the abbreviation was. Prisoner of Mother England. Why would they call me a prisoner of Mother England? Because originally in history, English prisoners were sent for stealing bread, as little as a loaf of bread, to the colonies, and they became convicts. And after a period of years, many years, 10, 20 years, they could become a free person in Australia, and they could own land, and they could work hard and bring up their family. Ironically, Australians born in Australia all their life from Australian blood, who can trace themselves back to bushmen and highwaymen and convicts, they're proud. They're proud that they can say, oh, I come from convict blood. Does that make them racist when they talk about immigrants who come to Australia from Italy, France, England, America. Mainly, you know, they used to call people different words from different countries, just like they used to call English people pommies. It's just a word. Why should I get worried about it? I suppose because I was indoctrinated that it was okay. Because when you think about it, I don't like being called Joe here. It irritates me being called Joe. I'm not American. I'm British. Therefore, are they being racist by calling me Joe? No. They just see every foreign face as Americano. Hence the name Joe. I don't like it. I say, oh, what's your name, sir? Mickey Mouse. Really? No, my name's Norman. John Norman. Oh, right. Okay. So when they call me Joe, I say, hello, Norman. And they go, because their name's Raoul, or their name's Ray, or their name's Ian. So they slowly doing it when they get past, hi, Norman, or hello, sir. They've stopped calling me Joe, which is fine. I'm not annoyed by it, openly. I'm not rude to them. There's a guy called, I used to call him Charlie. He used to call me Joe, so I used to call him Charlie. I know his name wasn't Charlie. Eventually we sat down outside of a sari. I found out, oh, we're live again. I found out that his name was, I've lost the name again, Jerry. His name was Jerry. So now I say, good morning, Jerry. And he says, good morning, Norman, which is great because he works with the barangay here. And he's a nice guy. He's got a good sense of humour. I always say hello to him every day. And I just think that the word has gotten away from it. I remember once doing a job in London. I was doing loft conversions, and in the conversation I said, oh, what the heck, a spade's a spade. Shock, horror on the faces of the person I had just said it to. And I thought, why? What did I say wrong? A spade is a spade. Now, my understanding of a spade is a spade is a spade is a spade. Now it has another connotation. I don't actually know what it is, and I don't care. It's not being used as that. And the other one was, oh, come on. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Really, what do you want? Shock, horror, nitty gritty. Now, somebody explained to me, that's in the slave ships. In the bottom of the slave ship, there was grit. And it's offensive to a slave.
Read the comments.
Wait a moment.
Read the comments. Read the comments.
Read the comments. I've been told by my inspector here, read the comment. Off topic. Right, read the comments. I think it's the Danish bakery near Midtown Restaurant. Yes, I do that, but luckily it's only on my upper lungs. Right, do you have thought that? You have been there, Dada. You bought French bread there? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Please don't smoke. Promise me to stop. They also make good raisin bread there. Oh, I miss the bread we used to buy there. My goodness, I'm having a sermon from Dave Cook. Dave, it's sad to hear. I hope you now live in a reasonably normal life now. Yeah. That's for some reason the comments haven't been showing up, so I'm now reading them. If you see my finger going up. I'm trying, we'll stop soon. What? Don't know what you mean by that. I will bring you some of their bread next time. Po. Right. Well, if you continue to smoke, it will damage you. Oh, somebody's getting a lecture. Simon, they really make nice bread at the Danish bakery. They do, they do. Now, now we're back online with the comments. I'm stopping. Well, you can hardly walk and can breathe, and it's late. Doctors won't be able to help you with that fact. That's right. That's a problem in England. It's England anymore. Smoke and vape. Oh, I have a question there. Is a girl walking on a bridge with a doctor? The girl is the doctor's daughter, but the doctor is not the girl's father. How is the girl related to the doctor? Answer, she's his daughter, but the doctor is not her father. It's his stepdaughter. Ha ha ha. No, Simon. Now I know the answer to that, but I won't tell you. She did that on me before. And it's like a, what do they call it? It's a riddle. So a little bit of a riddle. It was a daughter by IBF. No, back about the Danish bakery. I can recommend it. It's in San Fernando. It's on the main highway. As you say, it's a couple of doors down from Midtown Restaurant, next door to a very good electrical and appliance shop called something appliances. That's a good answer. What's the name of the appliance centre? Baba? Anyway, it's next door there. Anyway, every time I was in San Fernando, I wanted a munchie. I would always buy their rolls. They had different shaped rolls, bread rolls. Oh, yum yum. No butter, didn't care. I just ate them fresh. They were still warm. National Bazaar and National Appliances. It's National Appliances. Very good place. We bought our washing machine there, which we need fixing at the moment because not through them, but it's just, I think the gear's broken in it. One day it might get fixed. And, yep, Danish bread. They sell French bread loaves. Used to get them by the time I got home to Naguilian from San Fernando using a Partas bus. It was a little bit, it wasn't so crispy. So the best time to buy it is to buy a loaf and go for a wander around the market afterwards. Not the wet market, just the normal market. Break it in half and just munch on it. Fresh. Yum yum. Real bread. And I loved it. And they are cheap. They're not that expensive. Always busy in there. Yeah. So that's not Danny's Bakery. It's the Danish Bakery in San Fernando proper, just down from the plaza. So yes, it's a very good place. Fully recommend it. The staff are there, are very friendly, cheeky girls. They always say hello. They always recognise my pungent face. They'll probably go in there and say, "Oh, you're still alive." But yes, so life goes on, and that's the difference. When life was normal, I could go into San Fernando. We could have these experiences of chatting to people, talking to the guys who park the cars in the plaza for a few pesos extra. That's how they make their living. They do that. Talking to the traffic enforcers. Do you know they have a system here when we cross the road? Because you're a senior citizen, you're allowed to cross on the crossing. Everybody else is supposed to walk up the bridge and across the walkover and down the other side. If you're pregnant, you're a senior citizen, or you're you're injured, you're a disabled person, you're able to do that. When I first came here, I remember before they built the bridge, I was not allowed. Oh no, the bridge was up at that time. That's when I started doing it. And I realised that I didn't want to walk all the way up those steps and across and then all the way down. It just seemed, it actually was a little bit awkward to go up there. So I went into a shop and I bought this aluminium walking stick, which you can pull out different height. And I walked along, got to the side of the road, and the traffic enforcer saw that I had a stick. Come on, sir. And he escorted me across the road. And I put on a limp. I put a little bit of a limp on. And it was funny because after a while I realised, somebody told me, you know, sir, if you're over 60, you're allowed to walk across there. So when I was in Naguilian one day, I noticed a lovely old lady when we were buying plants, and she had this bent old piece of stick that she'd obviously polished up, and she was using it as a walking stick. And she had one of those, you want to give her a hug. She was, I don't know, in her 80s maybe. And she's a lovely old lady, and she spoke quite good English. And I said to her, I have a stick like that at home, but it's an aluminium one and it's adjustable. I'm going to bring it back. Next time I come to the market and I see it, I'm going to give it to you. Really? She goes. And I said, yeah, I'm going to give it to you as a present, as a gift. I don't want anything back. And anyway, next time I was in the market, I brought it with me. And there she was. And I walked up to her and I said, now this is the walking stick, I want to give it to you. And she went, oh no, that's too expensive, you know. And I gave it to her. And she, I think the next time I went in there, she came up to me and gave me a plant. Because we were buying plants from there, Jane was, for the garden. And I said, oh, okay, thank you very much, you know. But she has that lovely smile on her face every time I see her, and she goes, oh, I still got it. And the other day, it'd be over a year since I've seen her, and I saw her again, and she still had the stick. And I said, oh, you still got the stick then? And she's adopted it, so it went to a good home. And so what turned out to be a bit of a scam for me so I could walk across the road in San Fernando. And then discovering rather embarrassingly that I was old enough to walk across there anyway, and I didn't need to have a limp on, a walk on my... For a while I even walked across there with a little bit of a limp, because I thought he's going to remember me, he's going to think, oh, he stopped limping. And I told him the story, and he laughed his head off. He thought it was really funny. But it just shows you, Filipinos have a good sense of humour regardless of what you do. And some Filipinos that I know will say, oh, no, don't do that, they'll take you the wrong way. That's rubbish. They've got a closer sense of humour to an English sense of humour, or an Aussie sense of humour, than most people. I think some Americans have got maybe an American sense of humour, obviously, and it's a little bit more, it's based upon more a childish sense of joking. I don't mean that rudely either. It's more juvenile in their humour, whereas an English and Australian sense of humour has like a double-sided meaning often. It can be, it doesn't have to be as coarse as Benny Hill, but it does often have a double meaning. And Filipinos pick up on that double meaning very easily. And if they don't, if you follow it with the word charot, which is a bakla expression, a gay guy's expression, it means joking. And with a big, if you keep a smile on your face, they go, oh, bakla. You know, they go, oh, charot, and they laugh because you know the word. So it adds to the humour. So uh, it's very important that you have a good sense of humour and don't be scared to use it. If they, I often say to people, if you don't understand me, just say uh oh, which means yes, uh oh, and and that often gets a laugh anyway because there may be a little bit they understand most of what you say, but they get lost on a few words, and that can throw you on a sentence anyway. It's the same way as if we're listening to them and they put a few English words in, you pick up that they're talking about such and such. So you can jump into the conversation at that point and say, are you talking about the. And they go, yes, yes. And they're sort of surprised that you sort of know what they're talking about. And they say, oh, you know a little bit of Lacano and Tagalog. And I go, uh-oh, uh-oh. And it's funny and it's a joke and it keeps a lightness to the conversation. And that's what I love. It's so easy to have a conversation. Even kids will try and speak English. They're learning it at school and they want to try it out. It's nothing better than trying it out on the local foreigner who's there. And you get kids coming up, hello sir, how are you? I'm fine. And you turn around to them and say, come está? And they go, are you okay? I go, you okay? Uh-oh. And you say, oh, see, you're surprised I said that. And then I say, am I bugged it? And they go, no, sir. Maybe a little bit katok? Another word for crazy. And they laugh. And I say, charot, joking. And it opens up the door to friendliness, to, to joking, to having fun, for them to always walk away with a smile. And they make the effort always of coming up to you, or they're walking along the road and they'll walk across the road. So they go close to you and give you a high five. Kids love to do that. And what's your name? Mickey Mouse. What's yours? I say. Are you Donald Duck? Ha 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 ha, they laugh. And that's part of the joy of living in the Philippines. You don't get that in Australia. You don't get that in New Zealand or England. My God, England, when I used to go back to England, and there was a time when I was working there for about 6 years as an adult. I was in my 50s. And they're so serious. In England, they're so serious. I can't get over how serious they are. I remember I was doing loft conversions, and in between doing loft conversions, I do tiling. And I got this rather, I called him, he was a bit stuck up. He drove around in a Rover and he thought he was driving a Jag. He drove around in his Rover and he had all his books and his wife sitting alongside him. And he was like the foreman, the man who you went to see. And he'd get you to meet him at a site, and often the person who you were going to was very wealthy. And I can remember a time when I went up there, and one of the people that we popped up to was, they were Australian. There you go, mate, that kind of Australian. He was in finance, and his wife, I don't know, she was at home looking after the kids. Had a nice house in Chelsea, and they wanted some tiling done. Little job, pretty straightforward. Anyway, this guy took me to this lady, arranged an appointment to meet her. So I went down to hear about the job. Went to her. I went up to the front door, as you would do. And we'll call him Mr. Williams. I think that was his name, Mr. Williams. He wanted to be called Mr. Williams. He said, oh, no. Mr. Andrew, you have to go downstairs to the tradesman's entrance. I go, huh? Where? The basement? No. I'm here now. I pressed the bell and the lady came to the door. I said, hi, I'm John. And she goes, g'day. Oh, are you Australian? And she goes, yeah, come on in. I've got a tiling job. His place nearly dropped a mile. Mr. Williams, he was at the bottom of the steps coming up, and uh, she turned around and she said to him, "I'll see you downstairs, Mr. Williams." So the tradesman went downstairs from inside, and Mr. Williams, my boss, or my foreman, the guy I got the contract from, uh, he went down to the tradesman entrance where actually that was where they were going to do the tiling. So it was funny, I met him at the door. I said, "Oh, shall I let him in?" I said to the lady. Her name was Sally. She said, "Oh no." What's her name was? We'll call her, say, Mrs. Mitchell. She said, "Oh, no, 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 no. Call me Sally." So I said, "Oh, Sally, whereabouts are you tiling?" "Oh, down here, John." So she showed me down there. And I said, "Oh, shall I let Mr. Williams in?" "Oh, yes, 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 let him in." "Yeah, Mr. Williams, yes, Sally's just..." And his face dropped again because I was calling him by first name. And it just shows you how different cultures have different ways of approaching people. I've never found that here. You know, you can have a wealthy person. I just see through it. I mean, I'm a foreigner, so I'm a millionaire in most people's minds, aren't I? So it doesn't matter. So what? They got a four-wheel drive. They live in a big house. So I've got a big house. Jane's got a big house. We live in a big house. So the idea that there's a class system, I think maybe in Manila it'll probably be a bit different there because the the gap between rich, middle class, upper middle class, blah blah blah, they definitely want to define it, especially in the Asian countries. Remember who you are. So as a foreigner, we're able to bridge that social gap a lot easier than that of the locals. I would think would have to be of an equal standing to be treated the same way, and that is a bit strange here when you first come to live in the Philippines. Is that we we are actually shown to be as foreigners. Um, oh, I've just picked up the. Where have they gone? Right. 9:49. That's a while ago. Oh no, it's the latest one. Sorry. Hello, Malos. 1963. Long time no see. Sorry, my uh, my notifications haven't been showing as they should do on the screen. Sorry about that. Dave says his girlfriend lives in Quizob Street, Barangay Bawang, Launion. Is she far from you? Well, if she lives in Bawang, she's not far from us. I don't know where Quizob Street is. But if it's in Bawang, Bawang stretches from Bawang proper. If I'm going towards San Fernando, I think Bawang actually goes almost up to the point of Citygate. I believe that's the boundary, Citygate. So Bawang could be anywhere. But the the different barangays, I'm not familiar with them. Maybe Jane might know where that is. But yeah, if you want to, you should get your girlfriend, Dave, to. Um, yeah, Bawang does go for a long way, Graham. It goes a long way over the bridge down towards Manila, and it also goes the other way back towards. Did you mean Quezon Street? Yes, probably. That's probably what it is. Um, so maybe you should get her to chat to Jane on her Facebook. No doubt Jane will give you a comment afterwards. You'll be able to find it my Facebook. You get her to go on my Facebook and leave a message, and I'll become friends, and I'll hand her over to Jane, and then Jane can talk to her. And she sounds more the age of Jane's eldest, so they may have something in common. Yes, so hello Kapan. Kapan. Right, we'll see now whether or not that happens. I've just pressed the other button to keep them coming up on there. Ah, Graham, the British expat. Yes, sometimes we need Facebook. Yep. Now it's coming up. I must have not pressed the right one. Yes, there we are. I'm useless on Facebook. Hi, hi, Al Kapan. Now I can see them. I don't know what I was doing. It wasn't coming up as a notification straight away. So, my goodness, have I been talking for 2 hours? Oh, my goodness, no wonder everyone's gone away. Email is good too, yes. Email is good. The trouble is you also have to get rid of all the junk mail every few days, otherwise you just get, it gets, all your proper email gets lost in it. I say that to Jane because Jane, I looked at her email one day and she's got like 2,500 emails. And I'm thinking, how could you keep 2,500 emails there? You need to go through them, just dump them, dump them, dump them, dump them. It might take you all evening one night, but do it and then get in the habit of doing it every few days. That way then you'll have only the ones that you're focused on and the rest become junk mail. And the junk mail, you can just delete them anyway, unless somebody's gone and sent you an important one through your email. I'm multitasking joining the live while doing some laundry. Well, that means that Jane's outside. So, yes, we've covered a few subjects. So, SWA talking for 10 minutes and waffling for hours. Ha ha ha. Joke. Charot! Yes. Well, in Australia, it's night time there. Well and truly. So, I think Kevin and Gemma probably have gone. Have you gone, Kevin? I would think it's pretty well to midnight by now. If I've been going for 2 hours, 8 to 10, yes, it must be 2 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning. I think they're 3 or 4 hours different. And I suppose I should probably wrap this up, unless there's anything particular that somebody wants to talk about. Because to listen to me for 2 hours non-stop, which I don't believe everybody's done, they probably got me on in the background. That's fine. It's 9:55 here, 10 o'clock, yes, that's what I thought it was about 10, here in Bowen. So, we'll have to catch up again soon, Graham, and Simon's going to be catching up soon, and I'm going to go and video John over the road in the Bella Vista Resort. And if you go on Facebook and you look up, you search for Bella Vista Resort, you'll find who I'm talking about. And then there's Pete, who's up around the corner, who I see every morning riding his bike. English guy. Nice one. So, it's been nice chatting. The world goes back to a little bit more normal tomorrow, with Jane going off to work. And so we'll have to try and come up with a project to keep me busy in there, which doesn't cost a lot of dough. And we should be marching on slowly with the house. So thanks everybody, to everyone, Graham and Simon and Dave and many others who joined us. Thank you very much for calling by, Kapan. There is a Philippine variant. Yes, I've got it. I'm a variant. I'm an alien. Yes, goodbye to everybody. And you, God bless you everyone. And I hope that everybody has a good day tomorrow. And we'll have to start doing a few more videos. I'd like to do some videos around the areas that I've discovered simply by having to take the alternative routes in the tricycles. So I'm going to try and do some of that. It might be useful for people who've lived or come from Naguilian to also see what life is like still here in their own hometown. So thanks again for watching, supporting the channel. I appreciate it. And 2 cases of it in the UK. Yes, well, maybe it's a Filipina. That's why it's a Filipina brand. So, bye-bye to everybody. Take care. And we'll catch up with you in a few days' time. Bye-bye. Bye.